Hi Neha,
Hey Zach, how's it going?
how you doing?
Good, good. How about you?
I'm good. I think work's been more interesting the last couple of weeks, so that's good.
Nice.
Let's see. To date. Uh, is everybody okay?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, nobody. I don't know anybody who has the virus, fortunately. And here in the state that I live in Australia. Yesterday we had zero new cases, and I think the day before we also had zero new cases and no deaths. So we're not down to zero total, but it's going pretty well. So
Yeah, that's what I
that's
heard
good.
from Brad too.
What's that?
That's what I heard from Brad too. He said that
Yeah,
you had zero new cases. Yeah.
yeah, it's good. I really did not think that Australia would be. I thought it would be more like America and like the America that I was from, like the you know, fat white guy with a machine gun in front of the state house yelling about how he should have the freedom to do whatever he wants. I thought Australia would be like that, but it surprised me. Everybody's been, although I did just go to the office supply store to buy some 32 gig USB drives to rebuild the Ceph cluster with the Ceph ADM procedure, and um, there were a bunch of people who had no business being out, just poking around at stuff, looking at stuff. Although, on the other hand, no new cases, so maybe there's really no danger. But you know,
hmm Yeah.
um, so I guess since it's after the time, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
start, and
hmm
I won't
hmm
take up too much of your time. All right, so recently I've been working with Sebastian on the docs bugs, and so I've been on European time mostly, like starting in the afternoons, and then one night just staying up for like just sitting here working for like 17 hours. Um, and it's fun. It's actually a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it now, which is a funny
hmm
thing because uh so um we now have because of Keifu's work, we have working search on Read the Docs, and it's great.
hmm
But we have
Yep.
two other websites that are now redundant. There's the docs.ceph.com website, which is the traditional one. But then there's
hmm
also ceph.io/install, which was brought to my attention again last week when one of the guys who works here in Perth um,
hmm
had they were trying to sell Ceph to their CTO, and he went to ceph.io/install, and there's a bunch of 403s, like it's a bunch of like forbidden and then 404s, like the links are just broken.
Yeah.
And I remember back in September when we were just talking, before I got hired. When I first looked at Ceph, I also went to ceph.io/install, and it didn't work then either. So it is a we got to kill it. We gotta put a redirect on it and send people to read the docs or something. But that's a
hmm
thing that I guess maybe I should write to David Galloway and ask him to do that. I'm not sure. I don't know who owns
Yeah.
ceph.io.
To be honest, I don't know as well, but it's a good start. Why don't you just send an email to like Ceph Devel or like basically dev at ceph.io, the
Ah,
group.
yes.
And
Yep. I
I just pasted the Trello card. Um, so there is a new
Is it the one that
section
Keifu
for
started?
yeah. So I think that's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
there. The usability thing has been there, but maybe the documentation thing has been added recently. So we
Yeah,
can
that's right.
use this, we can just use this and maybe, I don't think Ceph.io came up earlier. We were talking about redirecting docs.ceph.com to read
Yeah,
the docs, right? But
yeah.
now that you
This is
mention it, it makes sense. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. This is a newer thing in the
yeah.
like I think of all of this stuff as different components of what I think of as the information retrieval initiative. Because like when so the last time I think the last time that we talked, or maybe it was two of these meetings ago, you said
Hmm.
like, hey, push Sage to put your Ceph deploy procedure back up. That thing that I
Hmm.
wrote in like
Hmm.
December. And so I was talking with Sebastian and Linz, I think. I can't remember if Linz was a part of it, but it actually, that procedure got ingested into the current Ceph ADM procedure. It was used as the skeleton for what is now the Ceph ADM procedure. And there have been a couple of emails in this week, in early this week, from people who were going through that procedure, and initially they didn't get a working three node cluster, and then later they did. So when I saw that, that's why I went and bought new 32 gig drives, because I'm gonna sit here with my that's the cluster right over there.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
it's three Intel NUCs that are stacked up. I don't know if you can see it. It's
I
right
can.
there.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I'm gonna go through the procedure myself because it has a bunch of stuff in it that I think Patrick's team added to it.
Hmm.
And so when I was looking for Ceph ADM stuff, uh, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, or it was more than that. It was when I became obsessed with search for a little while. It was because I found the Ceph ADM stuff on the website, but then I could only look for single words. And when I say I found the Ceph ADM stuff, like I was looking for my own procedure to see if it had been exposed on the website, if it was live. And instead, some like I could find little bits of my prose in this other thing floating in this other procedure. And um, I couldn't find anything like the search wasn't very useful, but the information on that I turned up that I happened to bump into was super informative. And so I was doing what was so that there was a lot of good information. I mean, like some of it I had written, but a lot of it I hadn't. A lot of it was just generated by the community or by, I don't know, Patrick's team or something. And it made me realize like we need we need to promote what in library science is called serendipitous information seeking behavior. So like when you go looking for one thing and then you bump into this and you bump into that and you like get on a Wikipedia rabbit hole and you end up just learning all sorts of stuff. And the reason I say that is um, we have a lot of good content already. It's just
Hmm.
not exposed in the way that I would like for it to be. And so that was the impetus behind the search component of this. But this all of this stuff is part of this information retrieval initiative that I'm thinking of, where like in my mind, ideally, we would have a really good alphabetized index, which you could just browse through. Everybody knows the alphabet. If they read English, they're going to know the alphabet, and they can just read through it. I'm thinking about doing it with ref tags um, in Sphinx and restructured text. I think
Hmm.
that's probably like the most off-the-shelf way to do it. If we were using DocBook XML, which we're not, and I'm not suggesting that we do. If we were using DocBook XML, I'd just do it with index term tags, which is how that's how my own I still store all of my own personal documentation in DocBook XML precisely so I can use the index terms. And
Hmm.
it is a tremendously tedious task. It is the sort of thing you have to pay someone to do because no one would willingly sit there and do it or learn all of the stuff they need to learn in order to create a good index. But so an index is one component of it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, at least in docs.ceph.com, our RST uses refs already.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a bug this week where I had to link to another document using a ref tag. So
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I had a 17-hour, I know we're being recorded, but I'm gonna swear, I had a goddamn 17-hour building and then failing and then building again and then failing again, like
Hmm.
compiling over and over again because I for some reason I could not get this block of commands to format properly. Only the first line would format properly. And
Hmm.
I I was deep into it the way that like when you're doing a math problem, you can't let it go halfway through or you'll never get back to where you were.
Yeah.
So like I started about I don't know about dusk, about 6 o'clock, and I got all the information I needed all nice and tidy, and then I kept pushing like I couldn't get it to build right. And so I sat up until about 6 in the morning, just, it takes about 4 to 6 minutes to build the docs, like building. And then in the course of it, I would write down like, well, maybe I need to do this thing or that thing. And there's like 3 pages
Wow.
of, wait, maybe this thing will work. And because there's like a 6 minute wait, I'd want to write it down so I'd make sure not to forget it. And then I slept, and then the next morning I woke up and I was thinking about it, and I was like, what if I just try to indent everything 5 spaces instead of three? And that fixed it. So,
Yeah.
another thing that I'd like to do with this information retrieval initiative, which is just a bunch of different, it'll be a bunch of different things to make the documentation more discoverable and to bring to potential information seekers the information that we already have there. I mean, like I'll of course generate new information as that's necessary, but there's so much already there that like that seems to me to be the biggest. That's what cries out for improvement immediately. Um, I also want to write a little guide or to add to the page that's already there. Like
Mhm.
here are some things that you need to do in order to add to the documentation. And one of those things is we need to say like 5 spaces. I don't know why it happens to work that way for this.
Mhm.
I didn't set up restructured text and there's not a very good there's an okay guide, but there's not some sort of canonical guide. It doesn't seem to be the kind of definition that I would hope for, and it uses Python style white space, so it's confusing anyway. So anyway, um, that stuff all falls under the information retrieval initiative, which
Got
is
it.
yeah. Um, and then Google Season of Docs, May 4th is the deadline, so that's not this
Yeah.
coming Monday, but the one after that.
Right.
I sent an email that Josh sent me. I sent an email with 5 ideas on it. One was
Hmm.
the beginner's guide to Ceph, which I think is probably our strongest. Like that's the strongest one.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's just yesterday in the Ceph users channel, this guy showed up saying that he was trying to install Ceph for the first time. So that might be useful. Like I just read through it, like I skimmed it, but he had some like complaints about like I don't get this, I don't get that. So that might be a useful thing to use to do like
Yeah.
a beginner's
I
guide.
was.
Because the Ceph 8. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember I shared some past years projects with you.
Yeah, I've got them.
Do you think that our beginners guide to Ceph is like that has a good chance of getting accepted?
Yes, it is almost identical to at least two different projects. In fact, I hadn't been
Hmm.
thinking about the beginner's guide until I saw this thing. It was like I have it actually right here. BRL. Oh wait, not BRL CAD. Where is it? There are a few beginners guides in the previously accepted um, submissions. So yeah, I think. Oh, and that reminds me, I need to ask. Do we have like an official font? Is there a Ceph logo or something? Because
Ceph,
okay,
we do have a Ceph logo, but we don't have an official
okay.
font. I mean, as long as you don't change the font of the four letters, like Ceph.
So the logo is a little dot with the two like tentacles
Yeah,
around
the
like the
rounded.
circle.
Yeah.
Okay. I ask because
So,
I'm gonna do a little desktop publishing so that the document looks, fancy, like we have letterhead,
mhm.
and which I will tell you in all candor, I personally do not care about, and much of the best documentation I've ever seen was written on like napkins in the back of menus and stuff. But like the really useful stuff is on post-it notes stuck to monitors.
Mhm.
But from working at startups, I know people do care about that sort of thing. Oh, that looks pretty. What's this? So I'll try to make an eye-catching thing. I would like to talk to like I'll write up some stuff, and I would like to talk to people sometime, probably earlier than late next week. So like I don't want to
Mhm.
hit people on Monday with it, but or whenever people have time to talk about like what or I don't know. Let me ask you this: Are we the only two who care about Google season of Docs, or are there other people?
Uh, I mean, at least until last year, probably there were only two or three people who cared about Google's
Hmm.
season of docs. Uh, Last year, we didn't get accepted just because it was their first year and they were probably trying to figure out the process themselves. They had too many
Hmm.
applications to select from, so we didn't get a good reason for why we didn't get accepted as well. So beyond that, I
Can
don't
you?
think anybody has even like looked at it much.
All right.
So uh, I guess there's no harm sending it out to the whole group and asking for their opinion. If you really want a review of a proposal,
Well,
I'm willing to do that, and you can send it out to Josh as well. Josh and me, we are
hmm,
probably the best people
sure.
who can
Well,
help you review that.
the thing that's most important to me, I'm realistic. I doubt people only care about documentation when it fails, and then they care very desperately. But it's nobody present company accepted. I actually have been really impressed with Ceph, with the team. Everybody's been very helpful. And Sebastian especially is very effusive. Like whenever I help him out, he's like, "Thank you so much for helping me." And I feel like I'm not really sure, whatever. Um, but what was I saying? Um, I don't want the only reason I ask if we should put it past people is because I don't want people feeling like I'm trying to slip something by them. I don't like it. I don't like. I want it to be transparent. I,
It's don't worry
and
too
I
much
get it,
about it.
but
I think yeah, I think you already mentioned
people
it.
probably don't care. Yeah,
It
people
doesn't
probably
matter, right?
don't care.
It
Yeah,
shouldn't stop you from sharing what you want to share, right? It's
yeah,
their decision. If they have the time, if they have the bandwidth, they can take a look. Um, and we have to also admit the fact that everybody is very busy with whatever they're doing, and
yeah,
documentation, to
yeah.
be honest, is not one of their priorities. So uh,
I know.
if
I
people
get it.
had the band and the same, like for me, I offered to do a project mentoring last year for Season of Docs, but this year I have a GSOC project as well going on. So other people have other commitments too, so I totally understand. But what I'm just
Yeah,
saying is it doesn't hurt to share. And
and
if you really want a review, I told you the two people you can reach out to. So just that's all.
I will. I will. I'll at
I
least
think you
send
have
it
a good
out before
good
before I.
you have a good topic already. I think it's all about like framing it in a way that appeals to people. So I think
I'm
that's
going
good.
to. I will not plagiarize, but I will consult the winning submissions before and make certain that we are in the same area.
Yeah.
And you guys will have the opportunity to look at it at least for 72, let's say 72 hours before the submission. So I'll have it by next Thursday.
Sure.
By next Wednesday, you guys' time, I'll have
Mhm.
a document in front of you that
You've
you can
already
look
taken a
at.
look at the submission procedure and everything, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
have. We can.
You
It's
don't
not
need
hard.
any. Okay. Cocool.
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
want to make sure. A lot of times that's
yeah.
been our problem. We miss deadlines just because we didn't start early enough. So
No, we're good. That's why like I thought at first I was concerned that May 4th was next Friday, but then because nobody leaves the house anymore, I have and I'm like I spent most of Sunday doing Ceph related stuff, so I have no sense of any weekend or anything like that anymore, so I had no idea. But it turns out that it's Monday, so we're good. We have plenty of time. There's time to do 5 or 6 drafts in an absolute pinch. If I had to drop everything else,
Yeah.
we'd have tons of time. So yeah, that should be fine. I'm
Mhm.
not worried about a season of docs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, as
I
far as
think
the okay, I just while we were talking, I just remembered one thing about Ceph.io.
mhm.
Earlier, I don't know what the current state is. Earlier, a lot of our hosting was done on WordPress, so
Uh-huh.
it's quite possible that the content is coming from there. But you should still double check. And when at least I started out with this improving docs movement, uh, my ideal goal was to have the website, which Ceph.io is basically the Ceph website, and docs.ceph.com is basically docs, right? I mean, there are two separate
Yep.
things. Uh,
Sure.
but my aim was to have like a simple getting started guide,
Hmm.
or like even like a redirect link that people could find on Ceph.io. And also, are you still there? I think your video
Yeah,
went
yeah.
off.
Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
my iPhone gave me a low battery alert, and
No worries.
seems
Don't
yeah,
worry. Yeah.
yeah. Go on.
There are two things. I mean, one, that when anybody lands on Ceph.io, they should know, even if they are just a user or a
Hmm.
developer, they should know where they should go next. Currently,
Yep,
the state of the website is not that. Uh,
yep,
Beyond that, there should be consolidation, that there should just be all the content for developers should be on
yep.
docs.ceph.com. But what I also
That's
wanted on the main website was like things like you could have like a small video where we could record like how do you open a PR, or like
yep,
all some basic like what is Ceph, if somebody wants to just go through Ceph in 2 minutes in a video in a
yep.
visual manner, they should be able to do that. All those kind of things, I think.
I saw that. I saw that on the there was a link that I got, which is saved in one of my bookmarks, from I suppose the initiative that led to me being hired last summer, and that was on there. It was like, can we get a short video explaining how to get involved? How can you
Exactly.
make an easy? And there was this long thing complaining about how hard it is to make changes to the documentation, and
Right.
I like I know I like I just spent a few hours with Sebastian going back and forth on this thing, like trying to get my commits squashed, and there was also a merge problem, which is it's not an interesting situation. It comes up all the time in Git, but I've been doing this professionally for 10 years now, and I still had to sit there for 2 hours trying to get everything just right. And the list of stuff, like they're valid complaints. They're not wrong, but the only like I don't know how to make those like we use Git as the work like Git is here to stay. We're not going to get rid of it. It's going to be how we store the docs. That's going to increase the cost of changing the docs to the point that the way that I always thought it should be done, and I know we're running low on time. When I was at Red Hat, I never understood. Well, I do know why because I understand how the managerial structure was set up, and it wasn't great for getting stuff done. I never understood why we didn't hire like 1 or 2 people to be version control technicians, and then have technical writers focus on writing procedures that were clear. And then you could have like even young or inexperienced technical writers who maybe made less money, and their job would be like QA. They would bring their ignorance to it. And then like once the procedure was right, then we just hand it off to the version control technicians, and then they would just get it in as it needs to be, because so much time was spent by unskilled Get users trying to get things in and failing. And even now, like I'm a pretty good technical writer, but even now I spend time like if
Yeah.
somebody else touches the same file, now there's a merge conflict, and I have to pull down I have to then open it and then find the tags and then go through every place where the tags are there and make sure that the things that we want are there and I'm not stepping on somebody else's toes. And
Yeah.
the lowest cost that I can find for it is in this case, I'll just learn it. I'll just learn how to work with the workflow, which is one of the reasons that this has been so fun for me the last couple of weeks because I've been doing a lot of I've learned a good deal about Get. Like I know we're almost done, and I want to respect your time and not keep you over
Mhm.
time. But
Yes.
I polluted my master branch when I was looking into getting read the docs working. I
Mhm.
found this thing that you had to create a YAML file in your master branch, and there was no way around it. It did not have a way. It didn't have an easy way to just direct the read the docs mechanism that created the index to or the stemmed index. You couldn't use a sub branch. You had to use master. So I
Mhm.
polluted my own master branch, and just in the last 2 days, and so I kept having to do these get reset hards back to an old thing, and then rebasing my branches against that. But then whenever I would then like push, and then I would pull, it would bring in all those commits that I had polluted my master branch with. So what I did was I renamed my master branch to underscore old master branch, and then pulled the upstream branch into a new branch called master, and I'd never done that before, so it was really educational. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, what you were saying earlier about having, I also want to have all that stuff.
Mhm.
Everything on there is correct. You're absolutely right. There needs to be like multimedia ways of consuming stuff, and that
Mhm.
involves like I'm willing to like the places where I can't. Where I don't have the skills yet to do whatever video editing needs to be done. I'll learn it. I know some video editing. I'm totally willing to do that. Like I'll say since it's just the two of us, Zafman makes these very um, information-packed videos, but they are not page turners. They are not riveting videos.
I mean, to be fair, he didn't make the video. He was just giving a presentation
Yeah, I
in
know, I
in
know.
a meeting, and it was
Yeah,
just somebody recording it.
Yeah,
So I
I
understand
mean,
what you're
no,
saying.
no
Uh,
disrespect. Like I could
yeah,
never do what he does, and I have
yeah,
all respect.
yeah,
But I will tell you, like writing those OSDDF man pages, whew,
mhm,
that is
yeah.
yeah. So
So yeah, I
so
mean,
yeah, that's
so what I'm trying to say is that when you started the discussion about consolidating Ceph.io with docs.ceph.com, why don't we bring this
yep.
discussion up? This is not something we've been talking about. We've been just talking about docs.ceph.com and
Yeah,
read the docs, right?
and read the
That's
docs.
one
Yeah,
part that we know we need to do. That redirect needs to happen. There's no to
yeah, yeah.
questions about it. But what I'm trying to say is while we are at it, we should also try to improve the Ceph.io website. And from your perspective, I would like to know what do you want to see on that website? It should have redirect links that I understand for like developers or like users, all that is fine. But if you want to like visually attract a person and try to explain Ceph
Mm.
by means of a picture, by means of video, or like things like that, what would your idea be? I have a few ideas which I already said, but I'm not even sure my ideas make sense or they're the best. But what I want to say is that it's been a problem, and we want to find a solution. So why don't we brainstorm it together, and then we can come to this. We can probably add a Trello card for that as well in the usability board
Yep.
about how we
I'll
can
add a
improve.
I'll,
I know.
I'll add the Ceph.io thing to the consolidation initiative as
Yeah,
well, and we'll
yeah.
just like I reckon.
And to
Oh,
be to be
but
also to be also fair, I think the Ceph.io part, if it's WordPress, it's going to be fairly easy for you to play around with. Earlier, I think Mike Perez, who was our community manager, but I think he's on
yeah,
PTO or something. He is the one who was like dealing with most of the things, but there are other people jumping in once in a while to do stuff on it. So, but nobody has taken a holistic look at it to design the first page or like how it should redirect and all that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing for you to pursue next.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I will do that. Um, let's see. I think that's probably it. It's just the two of us.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know who I talked to about this. Um, my contract ends at the end of this month. So
Why don't
I
you? Oh, wait, let me see if I'm not. We can
like
talk
I
about the this is getting
This for
recorded and it's
tomorrow.
going to be posted. Yeah, no, we can talk
Oh
in
yeah,
a different
sure.
forum
All right. Yeah, yeah.
about that.
That's
But in
cool.
general, I want to conclude with a couple of things. You already have your season of docs figured out. I think
Yeah.
Ceph.io is also another good discussion that you brought up. So let's add the card. Try to bring that discussion up in a forum where people will chime in and we can have next steps. I know Sage strongly felt about it and he was superbly irritated with how the Ceph.io website looks in general. It
Okay.
has everything, but it's hard to find. The same problem that you mentioned with
Yeah.
docs.ceph.com.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
it.
have a
That's it.
community, we have community events, community calendars, but it's very difficult to even find that by Googling or those kind of
Yeah.
things. So that's that. And I think my final part was I think Kifu mentioned it in an email earlier. Now that we are redirecting stuff to read the docs, we had some earlier integration in our HTML scripts and stuff where we were doing edit on GitHub and report a documentation bug and all that kind of stuff. Now we've
Yep.
removed all that because edit on GitHub is a part of read the docs, so we don't need that.
Yep.
But there's still one useful feature that we are missing out on if we completely redirect is uh, there's this simple link that people can click on and it goes to an Etherpad and you can just write text in it and report
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bug. That's what you've been looking at earlier. So
Yeah,
even if we
right.
are doing the redirect part, we need to figure out where we can have that simple link that people can just go and use.
Yeah.
Because edit on GitHub, again, as you mentioned, it has its own challenges. Creating a
Yeah.
PR is not everybody's cup of tea, but writing a piece
It
of
would
text is probably everybody's cup of tea, right? So
yeah, sure.
that's another open question I have in my mind.
Yeah, the way that I would see I I know people will disagree with this, but I liked websites best in 1999 when you could get like an Angel Fire page and just put links and you had total control over everything and you didn't have to go through some sort of like Dreamweaver type framework that would then process what you've done and then make it less human controllable. So my preference would be for just like a big prominent here's the URL, bookmark it, and then use this to and then it would be incumbent upon people who really cared to do that. Uh, but I don't know if that's I don't know. It's a discussion that we would have to have with more people. I don't even know what tools are available in
Mhm.
2020.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah. So um,
Yeah,
so yeah, this
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not the highest priority thing, or you have to go do it today and fix it. I'm just saying that these
yeah.
are kind of priorities. Now that we have a Trello tracking stuff, why don't we add it there and then one by one we can squash things out from those.
Yeah,